Okay, on this one, I want to show you another instance of the Greek hand in the Bible. We've already talked about the Iliad and having a few in there, and the Odyssey and a few in there, and a couple of others, and of course, Sumerian places where they've taken things before, and of course, the idea of written in the stars that I've done recently. Each of these I may revisit, but I'm just trying to show you 6 or 8 different parts that are pretty easy to see, and therefore you should be able to make the connections real easy. And if you wonder how it's kind of hidden in there, but you're able to still find it, if you look deep enough or are familiar enough with the work and know what to look for. Because what you're going to hear in this one is that it's really more familiar tropes that lead on. And in this one, we're going to talk about Virgil. Virgil is a little bit different here, but it's going to still utilize the same tropes. This is another one showing by Dennis R. McDonald on a local podcast that's here with Derek of Myth Vision, and they're going to be reading off each other's parts. The first voice you'll hear is Dennis McDonald, and he's going to be doing the parts of Virgil, and Derek will be doing the parts of Luke in Acts. So let's get into this real quick. It'll be kind of a short one, but it's pretty compact, and you'll see how much echoing there is over again.
So I'll be the voice of Euripides and his characters, and you'll be the voice of Luke in the Acts of the Apostles. So I'm reading lines from lines 1 to 575, and you'll be reading from Acts 2 to 5. Now, these are obviously summaries of themes. A new religion, the religion of Dionysus, arrives in Thebes.
A new religion erupts in Jerusalem.
The god had introduced his cult to Phrygia, Media, Asia, and Arabia, as well as Persia and Bactria.
The message is heard by sojourners from Phrygia, Media, Asia, Arabia, Parthia, Elam, and Mesopotamia.
Worshippers are moved to act strangely. Fire appears on their heads, and they perform miraculous deeds.
Worshippers are moved to act strangely. Fire appears on their heads, and they perform miraculous deeds.
Pentheus is troubled and perplexed.
Those present are troubled and perplexed.
Pentheus accuses them of being drunk.
Some say that the believers are drunk.
Tiresias tells Pentheus that the Maenads are not drunk.
Peter tells the crowds that those who speak in foreign tongues are not drunk.
This possession by the god includes the ability to prophesy both for men and women.
This madness is prophetic for sons and daughters and for servants, both men and women.
Pentheus should receive the god.
The crowd should repent and be baptized.
Cadmus and Tiresias, though old, are ready to dance, strengthened by the god.
An old cripple who had never walked is given strength to leap about the temple.
Pentheus arrests Bacchus and Dionysus and then interrogates them.
The authorities arrest the apostles and then interrogate them.
Pentheus intensifies his opposition and calls for troops to arrest him.
The authorities intensify their opposition, forbidding the apostles to teach.
Dionysus's followers are resolute to obey their god, the pes, or the child of Zeus.
Peter and the apostles are resolute to obey their Lord, the pes of God, child of God.
Pentheus places Bacchus in a public prison.
Authorities place the apostles in a public prison.
Pentheus tries to silence the Maenads.
Authorities try to silence the apostles.
The chorus prays for divine intervention, and the god responds with an earthquake.
Jesus' followers pray for divine intervention, and God responds with an earthquake.
The god frees the Bacchans and himself.
An angel of the Lord frees the apostles.
The Bacchans continue their worship.
The apostles continue their preaching.
Pentheus continues his theomachia, that is, his fight against the god.
Gamaliel warns against becoming themachoi.
Theomachoi is in Acts of the Apostles and in the Bacchae as those who fight the god.
Ooh.
These are
Uh-oh.
verbally identical.
So is kick against the goads, correct?
So is kick
Yep.
against the goads. Now, scholars have seen these parallels. They are far too many and generative to say they're simply in the air. There's got to be a literary genetic connection between them. And just as Dionysus cares for his own and will protect them, the God of the apostles is going to protect them and make sure that they can worship him in freedom. So this makes wonderful sense in terms of Luke's own social identity, I would submit.
Yes, but it also shows that there's a Greek hand in the Bible. I don't know if you could hear that real well. I tried to echo it off and right into the microphone so you could hear it a little better perhaps than the last couple that I did on this. But in that same breath, hopefully you heard all of these tropes again, which don't copy as well as they did from the Iliad in those couple of different times, but yet you can see the parallels, which are not only happening across from each other in each paragraph, which is kind of summarized on what they say in most cases, but other times it's going word for word, places, people, things like that. Names have just been changed to protect the innocents, or was it innocent? You know, looking at it now, I'm saying this was a common trope and everybody knew it. And because it was so popular, it was like the big hit of the time and coming up into that time for hundreds of years. So once people got a hold of this idea and were read it by somebody in a priesthood idea, if you can imagine the old churches, it's come across as a little bit different. But you seemed probably so familiar with it that a lot of people probably saw through this at the time. That caused all of this Gnosticness and everything else and all the other things that you keep getting told about. And it's because probably a lot of the people that were real familiar with the written works of the time probably caught this. It's amazing we've sat here for 2,000 years under a fog and then suddenly start to peer out of the fog, and whenever we do, we're like, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow. And it just keeps hitting you right in the face like a cloud or something maybe stronger. But the tropes that are shown here that are echoing each other shows you that there's definitely a Greek hand in the Bible, and you could say that the person that wrote this was either totally enthralled with Homer and somehow it just mystically came out just like it word for word somehow, or you could realize that there's actually a definite Greek hand in the Bible. We'll get on to another one of these here shortly, and then I may revisit this once this is being able to be digested and I show some other things coming on, because there's some new archaeology out and things like that too, rather than showing you these things. And I do get a little tired of messing with the Bible. I mean, after you get past a certain point, it becomes just a moot point almost. But then again, when you find out something like this, and it illuminates the fact of where it came from, just like the Written in Stars series does, I think that's extremely important. I've shown you a lot of things in these last 5 years, but this culmination here is pretty powerful in itself. It's like that fireworks display's been going off, and then all of a sudden I hit on some pretty powerful ones that should make everybody go, ooh, ah. Peace.